right up front, I want to underscore something, that the gospel writers show Jesus speaking in symbolic language. He uses a lot of parables. He's known for hyperbolic or exaggerated speech. It is a preaching and teaching device that he uses to drive a point home. And sometimes it sounds a bit odd, but it's the way he taught, it's the way he teaches. And in the end, what he is saying, yes, I want you to live, sleep, eat, and drink the peace. I want you to extend it. I want you to live it. I want you to give and receive it. That is what we are ultimately talking about. It's a really serious commitment. It's a deep commitment that Jesus is looking for. I say sleep, eat, sleep, and drink. That's the way I like to refer to this little idiom or phrase. And what it means, and this is what Jesus is talking about, an intense, overwhelming interest in something. To live, sleep, eat, drink, that type of, it's to have an intense, overwhelming interest in something bordering on obsession. Okay, bordering on obsession, and sometimes it may cross over, but in any event, that's what we're talking about here. That's what Jesus is talking about today. Think of examples of such an obsession. I was reading an article a while back about jazz musicians and the top level jazz musicians, and they always say, well, the ticket to just get on the stage and start to really learn is 10,000 hours of practice. That just gets you on the stage. And we have parents of a professional cellist, the horn, that would probably understand that it takes so much time, and it's a commitment, very, very serious. This mountain climber here, eat, sleep, and drink. Now, this mountain climber, I don't know who he is, but one thing, if you remember the movie Free Solo, a guy by the name of Alex Honnold climbed up El Capitan. It's a 3,000-foot sheer face in Yosemite. And he climbs it without ropes. And he could die at any moment. That's a serious climb. But Honnold, to be able to get to that point, studied every aspect of that rock. He memorized every potential hold that he would use. All of that was programmed into his mind. It took years to get ready to try this. He lived, he slept, he ate, and he drank it, and he accomplished that. And if you haven't seen I think it's called Free Solo, the movie, if you want to get your blood going, that's a good one. So, in any event, we're looking at really having an intense personal interest. And I suspect all of us have had an intense personal interest about something. It might well be about our faith. It might be that we have taken a deep dive that Jesus is asking, and that could be part of our life story. It could be taking a deep dive into a profession, learning a specific skill, or it could be almost anything. But I think in our humanness, we can imagine what it means to really go for it with great gusto. And this is what Jesus is talking about. He wants his disciples, he wants the people in this story to experience that deep commitment of the life of peace. It's not enough to just have a little bite to eat. It's not enough just to listen to Jesus speak. He's looking for something so much more. He's looking for them to literally become addicted to the peace, that this is what it's all about. To fully consume it, to fully eat it, to fully drink it, and with a hearty appetite, with no reservations to dive into that pool of faith and keep swimming until we learn and we grow. This is what he's looking at. And he's saying, do it everywhere and anywhere. This is a deep commitment. It's an obsession. And the people start to pull away. We don't pick up as much of it in this lesson, but the verses that follow suggest that a whole lot of people peel away. They're saying to themselves, no, this is too much. A little dab will do you. I'll get a little bit of Jesus, but I'm not signing up for this big thing. This is way, way too much. And so they drift away. And why do they drift away? Well, we can imagine it probably has to do with fear. The fear of changing one's life. The fear of no longer listening to certain voices in the society that are saying something to do that is contrary to the peace. Because if I do that, maybe I'll be ostracized. If I do that, maybe I'll be labeled as something else. I don't want that much of what Jesus is talking about. And they leave, and Jesus is left with not a whole lot of disciples after this. And so here we are, 2,000 and some odd years later, thinking about this lesson, thinking about where do we stand in our faith, personally examining our own life and trying to get a hold of this thing. And the very first lesson, this one on Proverbs, Lady Wisdom, gives us an opportunity. She's giving the people an opportunity to come into the world of wisdom, to come in to recognize how interrelated God's universe is and how much we can be fed by following wisdom, by understanding the nature of what creation is all about. If we go further into that proverb, we also see that people have been given another option. And it's really to follow the voice of a fool will take you down a darker path. It's a choice. Wisdom or folly is how this thing starts out. And here we are looking at Lady Wisdom. We're looking at Jesus' desire to have us live, eat, sleep, and drink this stuff. And we are resting in our society, not all that different from other societies that preceded us. We're resting in what might be called a bit of a dog-eat-dog existence. Not so much if we're retired, but nevertheless, I think we understand what that means. It's go full bore at it at any expense. Don't worry about the consequences of someone who loses. Don't think of the full consequences. Don't do a 360. Nobody wants us to do a 360 on anything we do. No, it's straight ahead. It's just straight ahead. That's what we're looking for. That's not what Lady Wisdom's looking for, and it certainly is not what Jesus was looking for. And we're in this world. And sometimes we have been reduced to what we do for a living, or what we did for a living. And we haven't been invited to explore the fullness of what that means and how it interacts with society. It's a problem. And it's a problem that, frankly, has been identified in American business as early as the 90s, when we saw education moving fully away from liberal education into purely education that is designed to teach people a trade, collegiately or whatever. There's the recognition. There's the recognition that sometimes it's really hard to get people to open up and understand the other because people haven't been trained to do it. And this is a problem. So when someone says, I got to take this class that doesn't tie into what I do, no, it does tie into what you do. Use your imagination. God's universe is way beyond our ability to define what that means. We're dealing, my friends, with the question is, do we dive deep? Do we go full tilt boogie into this stuff? Do we say, you know what? I'm diving into the pool. I'm going for it. I'm going to live, eat, breathe, sleep, and drink the peace. The problem we have is the same problem they had 2,000 years ago. There's a fear associated with doing that. If I do that, if we do that, guess what? The world will change. And if you have enough, you're comfortable with that, maybe. If you don't have enough, you're probably rooting for it to happen. Manufactured fear. We've all been victims of it. Every one of us have been scarred by manufactured fear. A fear that keeps us from fully understanding the other. I'll give you one example. It's local. It has to do with race relations. Between the 50s and mid-60s, there were 300 African-American families over that period of time that were trying to live the American dream, move into a little nicer neighborhood with a little better schooling for their children. 300 incidents since from 60 to 65, and all of those incidents resulted in severe, violent reactions. Some homes were burned down to the ground. Many were stoned. Lots of epitaphs spread, fear-mongering all over the place. 300 incidents between 60 and 65 that set the stage for the very world we live in now. Don't want, no, boy, property values are going to go down. Don't want that. We'll make sure that stops. All during the era of the great church bubble. Oh, church was bigger than ever in the 50s and 60s. And this is the stuff that happens. I ask myself, where was the church then? Where was the church? I don't know. They were in the sanctuary, but they all went home. These are the days of our life. History is part of us whether we recognize it or not. It shapes everything that we do. To have a profound awareness of it is essential, particularly if we want to be countercultural and dive into that piece. We can do that. That's within our realm of possibility. And by the way, people talk about crime. Oh, crime is so bad. Do you realize that crime was at its peak in the 70s, 80s, and 90s? It's been steadily going downhill since. Crime's not the issue, but the peace is. People have taken the money and run. In the end, my friends, the good news is each one of us is loved. Each one of us is beloved. There's not one person here who isn't capable of greatness or who hasn't already become great. Each one of us is sacred. Each one of us has the capability every day of our lives to share the peace that surpasses all understanding. Every single one of us. There's nobody here who is incapable of doing that. Nobody. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Jesus wants us to live, sleep, eat, and drink this stuff. And we can. We can. And that's pretty good news. The challenge we have, I have shared. But here's the thing. Trust. Trust in God. Trust in your instincts to dive into that pool. Be not afraid. Jesus always said, be not afraid. All the time he's saying, be not afraid. Why does he always say it? Because it's scary to do this stuff. I can always have a but. Did you ever think of this? No. And so, my friends, we are here today at St. John Lutheran Church with a history of doing many good things. Many good things. I have recounted our ministries over time, and they have been amazing. And we're going to try to do something deeper on Tuesday at the Senate House, or whatever it's called, the meeting, talking about launching that ministry further. We have a potential to keep doing more with our lives, to be fed with that Holy Spirit and to share the good news, and to recognize how profoundly, overwhelmingly, our lives, your lives, have profound, overwhelming meaning. The kind of meaning that you could just jump for joy. Just jump for joy. Not victims. Hopeful, filled with God's peace. Amen.